Jason lived in a tall apartment building. From his window, he could see many other windows, like eyes looking back at him, but the eyes he watched most belonged to Noah, his neighbor across the way. Noah lived just a few balconies over, close enough that Jason could see him clearly. Every night, as the sun dipped down and the city lights began to twinkle, Noah would step out onto his balcony. He'd light a small stick that let out puffy white smoke. Jason was a quiet boy. He liked to read books and draw pictures. He didn't talk much, even to his own family. But watching Noah became his secret nightly ritual. He'd sit by his window, sometimes in the dark, just watching. Noah didn't do much. He just stood there, breathing out smoke into the night air. Sometimes, he'd lean on the railing, looking out at the city. Other times, he'd just stare at his hands. Jason wondered what Noah thought about. He wondered what the smoke tasted like. He wondered why Noah was always out there, alone. It wasn't a scary kind of watching. It was more like watching a movie, but the movie was real and played out every single night. The only sounds were the distant hum of the city, and sometimes, if Jason listened very hard, the soft hiss of Noah's smoke as he let it out. This nightly show was Jason's quiet secret, a part of his day he looked forward to with a gentle hum of excitement. The summer evenings in the city were long and slow. The sun would set, but the heat stayed trapped between the tall buildings. It made the air thick and heavy, like a warm, wet blanket. Sometimes, even with his window open, Jason felt sticky and restless. It was on these hot nights that Noah would appear, almost like a ghost in the dim light, bringing with him the faint scent of his smoke. Jason would wipe his brow, feeling the dampness on his skin. He couldn't explain why, but watching Noah seemed to make the heat a little less bothersome. It was a strange comfort. Even though they had never exchanged a single word, there was a pull, a silent string connecting Jason's quiet room to Noah's smoking figure. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was something deeper, a feeling Jason didn't quite understand, but knew was important. The silence between them was not empty. It was full of unsaid things, of shared moments across the narrow space. Jason knew Noah was real, not just a picture on a screen, but sometimes, in the soft glow of the city lights, he seemed like a dream. The warm breeze would carry the smell of the smoke right to Jason's nose, a mix of something burnt and something sweet. It was a smell that now meant Noah, meant night, and meant that strange, quiet connection. The heat pressed in, making everything feel closer, more intense, and Jason felt himself drawn even more to the balcony across the way. The city lights shimmered through the warm, sticky air. Jason was nestled in his usual spot, watching Noah. It wasn't every night, but often enough their eyes would meet. It happened so fast, a flicker of a second, but it felt like an hour. Noah would be looking out, perhaps lost in thought. Then his gaze would drift, and for a heartbeat, it would land on Jason's window. In that instant, everything else faded away. The city noise, the humid air, Jason's own quiet breathing, all gone. There was just the two of them, separated by a few feet of open air, their eyes locked. There was no surprise in Noah's eyes, no sudden jerk away, just a calm, steady look. And in Jason's eyes, no fear, just a deep, unspoken question. It was a silent conversation, a secret shared between them. No need for words. A nod might have broken the spell. A wave would have shattered the delicate glass of their connection. So they just looked. Jason felt a warmth spread through him, not from the summer heat, but from this shared glance. It felt like an understanding, a knowing that went beyond talking. It was as if Noah knew Jason was watching, and Jason knew Noah knew, and neither of them minded. It was their quiet game, played out in the dark, with only the stars and the city lights as witnesses. The moment would pass. Noah would look away first, and Jason would be left with a tingling feeling, a sense of something important just having happened. Even after their eyes met and parted, the memory of Noah lingered. But more than that, a scent would often drift across the humid air, a faint whisper that was uniquely Noah. It was the smell of his smoke, not the harsh, biting smell of a campfire, but something softer with a hint of sweetness like burnt sugar or dry leaves on an autumn day. At first, Jason barely noticed it, just another part of the city air. But as his nightly watches grew longer and the silent eye meets became more common, the smell started to mean something. It became a signal, a warm, smoky hug from across the divide. When the wind blew just right, a puff of it would reach Jason's nose, a confirmation that Noah was there, that his silent companion was present. Jason began to look forward to it. It was a comforting smell, one that filled his quiet room and chased away the lonely feeling of the big city night. It wrapped around him, a soft, invisible blanket that smelled of Noah and the secrets they shared without words. He didn't know what kind of smoke it was, or why it smelled so different from anything else. He just knew it was Noah's. Sometimes, Jason would even breathe deeper, trying to catch more of the scent, trying to hold on to it a little longer. It was a part of the night now, as much as the warm air and the distant city sounds. The smell of smoke became a bridge, connecting Jason's hidden spot to Noah's visible presence, weaving itself into the fabric of their unspoken bond. It was a smell that promised something more, something exciting, just waiting to happen. One evening, the air was thicker and heavier than usual. It was one of those summer nights where the heat didn't just linger, it pressed down on everything, making it hard to breathe. The humidity was a physical thing, clinging to Jason's skin like a damp cloth. Even the city's sounds seemed muffled, swallowed by the oppressive atmosphere. He sat by his window, a silent vigil, as was his custom, his shirt sticking to his back. Noah appeared on his balcony, just as he always did. But tonight he seemed different. He moved a little slower, his usual calm replaced by a subtle restlessness. The smoke from his cigarette curled lazily into the still air, not drifting far before dissolving into the haze. Jason watched, feeling the unusual tension in the air. The heat made everything feel charged, like something was about to break. Their eyes met, not for a fleeting second this time, but for a longer, more intense gaze. Jason felt his heart beat a little faster, a tiny drum against his ribs. The usual silent understanding was there, but it was mixed with something new, something raw, fueled by the stifling night. He could almost taste the thickness of the air, a mix of city smells and Noah's familiar smoke, now heavier, more potent. This wasn't just another night of watching. Jason could feel it deep down. Tonight felt different, as if the heat had melted away the usual rules, leaving only a simmering expectation. As Jason watched, the shared gaze stretched longer than ever, almost a silent dare. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, Noah brought his cigarette to the railing. He pressed the tip against the metal, a small hiss audible even from Jason's balcony, putting out the last ember. The faint smell of burnt tobacco quickly faded into the thick night air. Jason held his breath, a knot forming in his stomach. Noah didn't go inside. Instead, he took a step back, looked directly at Jason, and then, with surprising grace, placed one leg over the low railing separating their balconies. Jason's eyes widened. He watched, frozen, as Noah swung his other leg over, moving with a calm confidence that spoke of long practice. There was no hesitation, no stumble, just a smooth, quiet movement across the narrow gap. In a few swift motions, Noah was standing on Jason's balcony. The suddenness of it should have scared Jason, startled him into a shout or a quick retreat. But he felt no fear, only a jolt of pure, thrilling surprise, mixed with a strange sense of rightness. It was as if this moment, this crossing of the line, was always meant to happen. The humid air seemed to press in even closer, trapping them together in this sudden, shared space. Jason didn't move from his spot by the window, his heart thumping a quick, happy rhythm against his ribs. Noah was here, on his balcony, and the long silence was about to break. Noah landed with a soft thump, barely a whisper of sound against the balcony floor. He was careful, almost as if he didn't want to break the night's stillness any more than he already had. Jason, still by his window, watched as Noah straightened up, now fully on his side of the railing. The space between them, once an invisible wall, was now just a few steps. A new silence fell, different from the comfortable, observational quiet of before. This silence was thick, filled with the weight of the moment. It wasn't empty, but buzzed with 1,000 unspoken thoughts and feelings. Jason could feel it, a crackling energy in the humid air, like static before a storm. His heart was still racing, a joyous drumbeat against his ribs. Noah stood there, not moving closer, but just being present. The faint scent of his smoke, now mingled with something else, maybe the scent of the night air on his clothes, or just the scent of him, reached Jason. It was more potent now, closer. Jason could see the outline of Noah's face in the dim light, the slight rise and fall of his chest. The air between them felt alive, charged with a thrilling mix of fear and excitement. It was the suspense of a story just beginning, the feeling of standing on the edge of something big. Everything felt sharp and clear in that moment. The heavy air, the faint city hum, the quiet breathing of two boys on a balcony. The unspoken feelings hung in the air, electric and waiting. The air thrummed with a nervous energy, a sweet and dangerous vibration. Jason felt a dizzying mix of feelings swirl inside him. Excitement, hot and vibrant, buzzed in his veins. This was what he had secretly wished for, hadn't he? This closeness, this breaking of the invisible barrier. But a tiny sliver of worry, cold and sharp, pricked at him too. What now? What was supposed to happen? He was exposed, standing there in his own apartment, just inside the open balcony doors. Noah could see him clearly now, not just a blurry figure in the dark. Yet, the night itself offered a strange kind of hiding. The deep shadows of the balcony, the city lights painting patterns that obscured as much as they revealed, made it feel like they were in their own secret world. No one else could truly see them, not like this. It was a thrill, this being both seen and unseen. Like a game of hide and seek, but with much higher stakes. Jason could feel Noah's eyes on him, a soft weight that made his skin tingle. The smoke that still clung faintly to Noah's clothes, now so close, was intoxicating. It was a scent that whispered of mystery and closeness, a promise in the humid air. He felt a blush creep up his neck, even in the darkness. This was new, this was wild, and it was all happening on his balcony in the heart of the night. The silence stretched, thick and heavy like the humid air, filled with the electric charge of unspoken words. Jason felt his breath catch in his throat, waiting. The moment felt endless, a suspended breath in the heart of the night. Then Noah moved. He took a small step closer, not too close, just enough to lessen the space between them. And then he spoke. His voice was low, a soft rumble that cut through the city's distant hum. It wasn't loud, but it was clear, like water in a quiet stream. "Hot night," he said. Just two simple words. But to Jason, they were more than just words. They were a key, turning in a lock that had been sealed for so long. The long, silent spell was broken. The sound of Noah's voice, deep and real, sent a shiver down Jason's spine, a shiver that had nothing to do with cold. It was a thrill, a confirmation that this was real, that Noah was here, and that he was talking to him. Jason felt a sudden rush of warmth, a blush creeping up his neck and cheeks that the darkness could not completely hide. He hadn't realized how much he had wanted to hear Noah's voice until he heard it. The air, already thick with humidity and unspoken feelings, now seemed to vibrate with the echo of those two simple words. It was a beginning, a tiny spark in the vast dark. The question now was, what would happen next? Noah's words, so simple yet so powerful, echoed in the humid air. Jason looked at Noah, really looked at him, and in that moment a sudden, clear understanding washed over him. This wasn't just a random event, a happy accident of a hot night and an open balcony. This was planned, not with a calendar and a pen, but with something deeper, a silent agreement that had been building between them for weeks. Noah hadn't just climbed over because it was hot. He had climbed over because he wanted to. He had seen Jason watching, felt the unspoken connection, and decided to act on it. Just like Jason had secretly wished for, deep down in his quiet heart. It was a thrill, realizing that the desire wasn't just a one-way street. It was a shared feeling, a silent longing that had been waiting for the right moment, the right spark to ignite. The way Noah had looked at him before climbing over, the calm confidence in his movements, the low tone of his voice, it all clicked into place. This was never just coincidence. It was a dance they had been performing, unseen by others, a dance of glances and shared moments. And now, Noah had taken the boldest step. Jason felt a surge of warmth, a deep sense of validation. He wasn't alone in this secret world they had built. Noah was in it too, just as much, maybe even more. The humid night air, the lingering scent of smoke, the thrill of being exposed, yet hidden, it all made perfect sense now. This was desire, finally stepping out of the shadows. The truth of Noah's silent desire settled over Jason like the humid night air, warm and all-encompassing. The shared secret, the quiet glances, the lingering scent of smoke, it all made sense now. This wasn't just a friendly, neighborly visit. This was something much, much more. A connection, a pull, a spark that had quietly smoldered in the darkness, waiting for the right moment to burst into light. Noah stood there, a silent question in his eyes, waiting for Jason to speak, to react. But words felt too small, too weak to hold the bigness of this moment. The only sound was the soft hum of the city, a distant heartbeat that seemed to pulse with their own. The air, thick with unspoken feelings, seemed to hold its breath. This humid evening, this unexpected visit, this simple hot night, was not an end but a beginning. It was the moment their quiet world collided, transforming a distant watch into a close encounter. The slow burn of anticipation, the quiet thrill of their shared glances, had finally found its fuel. It was like a tiny spark, carefully nurtured, had finally met dry tinder. The flame hadn't fully roared yet, but the heat was undeniable, the glow already visible. Jason knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his bones, that tonight was the start of something truly new and exciting between them, something that would burn brightly in the heart of their secret nights.